We have two items to discuss tonight, although a lot of them have subparts, so this first one does. So item one is the city council agenda, which I have here in front of me. And so on the kind of old business portion, under item 5 and 6, we're going to be, I guess, recognizing employee of the quarter, George Blakely, at least here in a public forum, and then also Andy Hogg, who was our employee of the year for 2020. George is a employee in the finance department and does business inspections. And Andy is a public safety officer who was previously dispatcher here inside the city. So great participation here, and great to be able to recognize him here in a public forum, with the mayor and council. Under new business, under item 7, you have the City of North Augusta City Council meeting schedule and notice of January 2021 through December 2021. That should be in your materials. You'll notice there are a few months there's only one council meeting scheduled. That's because there's a holiday or day off on those third Mondays. That having been said, depending on the rate of things to be voted on, we can always add a special session in a month if we need to have a second session that month going forward. Any questions on item 7, the council meeting schedule?
Well, we probably will be having one in January, aren't we? Or we'll see. We'll see. Sorry.
I was just going with the more vague. I think we'll have some, but those will be situationally dependent, and also about the time sensitivity involved, whether we need to do those or not. And then the next item I have, unless there's any questions on the meeting schedule, item 8 is annexation. This is the first reading, and this is ordinance number 2020 TAC 36. This is to change the corporate limits of the city of North Augusta by accepting the petition requesting annexation by the city of North Augusta and annexing approximately 0.23 acres of parcel 005 TAC 10 TAC 05 TAC 016. Fronting on Makefield Drive and owned by the city of North Augusta. So again, if you look at the backup materials, I know we've talked about this before in study session, and this is the annexation request for a piece of land that is the very northern terminus of the Greenway. So instead of ending in the neighborhood where it does now, I believe this annexation would allow us to move forward and tie that into the road network further north onto Mayfield Drive. But I'll pause there and see if Libby or Rachel have anything they want to add on that one, or if there are any questions from the council for this first reading. You may remember we also discussed the same plot relative to the zoning to make it P, I believe. That was another part of this transaction, and this allows us to again tie it into the street network there, Mayfield Warren, which is currently outside the city limits. So it doesn't really annex additional properties for anything other than for the purpose of expanding the Greenway up to that road. There'll be multiple readings of this ordinance, but this will be the first reading of this ordinance tonight. Hearing no questions, I'll move on to number 9, which is the personnel resolution number 2020 TAC 57 to approve the proposed city personnel policy manual. We presented this in study session 2 weeks ago. I gave you the opportunity as the council to kind of review it. Myself or JD are certainly willing to answer any questions you have about this particular policy. Some of the major changes include adding holidays to include Veterans Day, and also allows within departments the ability to pool and share sick leave, or some of the major changes there inside the personnel policy, along with, I believe, one other addition there about nepotism, specifically in relation to the city administrator, to make sure I don't hire all my cousins and folk out of the Garden State. So I'll pause there for any questions. Again, this would be the resolution to accept, which would supplant the previous personnel policy manual. So that resolution will drop the old one and pick up the new one. And that's what we'll be doing tonight through that resolution to the council. And I'll stand by for any questions from council.
Now, you did say, Jim, did I hear that just me, that you can share sick days? Like if Sharon's sick and Rachel has extra days, she can share with Sharon. Is that what you say?
I believe the answer to that is yes. However, that's within the department and also requires the administrator or the administration team between Rachel and I to approve that transaction.
So it's only in the department, like let's say only finance can give finance shared, or can public safety give finance? I know we Aiken County Public Schools, we could give people some of our sick days.
I believe the way it's written right now, Councilwoman, is that we would share amongst, within the department, but I'll defer to JD if there's any wiggle room there on that policy.
Yeah, Ms. Pat, you're correct. You can share to anyone in the city. There's a cap on how much you can give, and there's a cap on how much you can get. So, but it's for all employees. It does cross funds. Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna tell y'all that is a wonderful thing. I mean, in Aiken County Public Schools, that was great. Because there were several employees that were out for some time. So that is a good thing to add right there.
All right. Are there any other questions or comments from the council about the proposed personnel policy manual?
I still stand opposed to adding more holidays. I didn't hear anybody really showing any signs of support at the study session, so I don't know that I'm going to get any help there on changing that. But again, adding President's Day and Veterans Day, I mean, albeit that those are good holidays, but I feel like those are days that vast majority of the public and private sector are working, and even if citizens aren't working, holidays tends to be days that people want to recreate. So having Parks and Rec not open and having the City Hall not open so that businesses can conduct business or pay bills or water bills or what have you. I have a problem with that just because I know we're going to get, if you set up a camera, we'd have a ton of people on those 2 days coming down to City Hall thinking they're going to get in. So same for Riverview Park. So albeit that's a good thing for our staff. We got to think about our citizens, and I don't think that's a good move. Obviously, if nobody else here supports taking that out, then I won't make a motion, but I would entertain making a motion to remove that from the policy.
Fletcher, I somewhat agree, because again, I mean, it seems like every time we turn around, let's add something. And I'm like you, Fletcher, I'm in the private sector. We take the major holidays off, Christmas, New Year's, 4th of July, but it just seems like it gets more and more where governments are shutting down, and most of the time it's not a big deal. I understand in the grand scheme of things, we're not paying employees hourly, we're paying them a salary, so they're paid irregardless, unless it just conflicts with trash pickup, our vital services. I'm back and forth on this one, but I do understand where you're coming from, Fletcher. It's at what point do you say that's enough? Now, the only hope is if it does pass, which, again, our employees are our best assets. I'm hoping the department heads, and I see most of them are here. I'm hoping if this goes through, I'm pretty sure it will, but, explain to them that this is a benefit. Most people do not look at that as a benefit. They just say, "Oh, we're off this day." And I think that's, maybe I'm a little salty because I'm kind of like David and Fletcher. We're in the private sector. If we don't work, we don't get paid, and we do provide for our employees. But at some point, I don't know what we're really losing out on. except for, if I want to come pay my water bill and they're closed, or really the big one, and I don't see Rick on here. I know he would object, but the Parks and Rec. I mean, President's Day, the kids are off. Maybe they want to go to the park and play basketball, but if the rec center's closed, and the weather's bad, so I do have some support, Fletcher. I just don't know. It's kind of a no-win situation either way. So I'll just, but I'm hoping the department heads are explaining to their employees that this is a benefit. You're being paid, to be off for this day.
Well, I disagree with both of you. I'm going to support this because I talked to Jim today. First of all, Veterans Day is one of the most important, besides Memorial. I'll go with Memorial is the most important. But other than Christmas Day, when Jesus was born, when we honor these veterans, I mean, there's nothing better than that because they've given their lives. And I think by employees, me being an employee all of my life, the little things like this that my boss did for me made me put out 10 times more work because I respected him, that he respected me. And a majority of your banks, your schools, places like this are off those days. And of course, this gives family more time. Yeah. Do I love going to the gym? I sure do. But like I said, and then hallelujah for the rec. And Rick, I have wanted this for years, and it has happened this year. The rec center is closed Thursday through Sunday, and it was that way during Thanksgiving. And that's the way I think it should have always been. And I'm saying, praise God that these employees can have those 4 days and be with their family and just be happy at Christmas and Thanksgiving. So I'm so thankful that worked out this year. But like I said, I think the more we do for our employees, as you said, Eric, our employees are our most valuable people to this city. They're over us. And if we can make their life better, then I think they're going to put out more work. And yes, it might inconvenience the citizens a little bit, but that's like I said, when I go to make a bank deposit and the bank shut down, I just go back the next day and don't complain. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Any other comments from council?
I don't remember exactly, but JD, didn't you explain to us that there was some logic behind those 2 days besides just giving another day off?
There was. Obviously, they're federal holidays, and so we fell in line with what the state was doing, as well as what the federal level was doing for holidays. We also try to match up with the Aiken County School District. If you're looking at a range of holidays, acceptable is usually between 8 and 12. Currently, that's kind of standard for what is offered. But that's the logic we took. We started with federal and we went through state, and then we looked at Good Friday is the only one that the city offers that is not offered on the state or federal level.
Councilman, also, I'd asked JD through the process of doing the personnel manual just to relook, for me as a new person, why the city was not aligned with a lot of the other local governments when it came to, holidays and days that people were operating. So when I was in on Veterans Day, I would be in anyway, just because we do a number of Veterans Day ceremonies here. But it was frustrating for me as an administrator because all the people I normally coordinate with were not there. So I was able to do things. It wasn't wasted time per se. I was able to do things internal to the city, but I could do nothing with, our sister cities or the county or even the folks across the river in Georgia. All that coordination was pretty much lost that day. So that's one of the reasons why I asked JD to look at this a little more holistically for the city to see how other municipalities and counties in our region were structured. And I think this puts us more in line with the region as a whole.
Well, I think it's a good move on behalf of the employees of the city, and I will be supporting it tonight.
All right, Councilman, are there any other comments or concerns about this particular item here, item number 9 under personnel? Okay, hearing none, I'm going to move forward into items 10 and 11, and those are linked. Those are not necessarily independent items, so I'll go through both of them simultaneously. So item 10 under finance is resolution number 2020 TAC 57 to approve the proposed, Number 10 is resolution number 2020 TAC 58, a resolution approving a reprioritized funding list for capital project sales tax 3, CPST 3. And then right after that, item 11 under public safety is resolution 2020 TAC 59, a resolution authorizing the acceptance of the low bid of SD Clifton Construction Incorporated for the construction of North Augusta Department of Public Safety Station 1. So the reason these two are linked is, in very short order, is item number 10 is the resolution which would basically pool all the remaining money in CPST 3 to fund the fire station because there's not enough money left in CPST 3 to fund the fire station and anything else. And understanding that the fire station is the current number one priority within CPST 3 of the council, we have to basically reallocate that money inside that band of funding, and that will all go towards the project. In addition to, we have to, at least on paper, allocate several $100,000 out of the capital projects fund for Fire Station 3. That's the initial funding strategy. What's not in this resolution, which will be a follow-on resolution, is we are going to still have to sell the Flythe and Seven Gables properties at some level of, hopefully gain. And so when that sale is complete, our initial thinking is that will more than cover the capital projects fund portion of Fire Station 1, and then whatever is remaining from that sale can be applied to other items in CPST 3. And at that point in time, we as the staff can provide the council a number of options about what we could do if we have leftover money in that project. So in very simple terms, item 10 here is for you as the council to give us, the staff, permission to put all of the CPST 3 funding allocated against Fire Station 1, along with the potential of Capital Projects Fund, until such time as I find funding out of the property sale. That's what we're really asking for in item number 10. So I'll pause for questions on this particular item. Understand this leads right into number 11. So if you have specific questions about the fire station, I'll cover that in the next item. But if you have questions about the financial methodology, this is a good place to throw it on the table. So I'll stand by for questions.
Jim, or whoever, Kelly, you might field this one. When are we putting this property up for sale? Have we done our due diligence? I mean, all the coring is done. Everything's good. Why are we still sitting on it?
Councilman, I would tell you a couple things. One, based on some of the advice we've gotten from other council members, they felt a little more comfortable putting this on the market in the early part of 2021. The other part of that is Kelly has had to take a little bit of extra time understanding the sensitivities involved with this project to make sure we have a good way ahead for how we would actually bid this project, how we would put the land up for sale. And then lastly, Rachel and I have been working kind of behind the scenes to figure out, which interested parties are interested in this project or in this land sale before we would actually advertise, because we're trying to generate as much interest as possible. Understand that when we put this thing on the street for bid, anybody that has money is able to bid on that project. We'll have to advertise that pretty widely through social media and the newspaper. So we've got to make sure we've got all our ducks in a row to make sure we get this thing on the street. So I don't view the sale of Seventh Gables and Flythe properties as holding up our ability to proceed with the project at Fire Station 1, but it does require us to move forward on this property in a closer time horizon, i.e. in the beginning of 2021. So I share your concern. Nobody's looking to hold this land indefinitely that does not meet the requirement for the project. And we want to be able to get this thing off our books so that we can put capital on our bank and be able to execute that against our primary projects here at CPST 3, namely Fire Station 1.
Thank you.
there any other questions about this specific item, item 10 under finance? Okay, hearing none, I'm going to move forward to number 11 under public safety, which is resolution number 2020 TAC 59, which is the authorization and acceptance of low bid. So under the original timeline that we had published, or at least discussed with the council, we were going to bring this to the council meeting on the 7th of December. I made a decision to extend this until today, the 21st, because I felt we needed to be able to do some additional due diligence on the contractor, and also based on a number of concerns that we received from competing vendors who had a lot of questions about the low bidder. And so we've spent a fair amount of time with Mark Hosner over at Capstone Services, with JLA, and also with Kelly Zier in a number of venues to confirm, kind of what the South Carolina statute was relative to how this bid works. And so there is some concern, if you will, that the number 2 bidder is, asking a lot of questions and could potentially file a bid protest. But at the end of the day, Kelly Zier's professional opinion was that the risk of not awarding to the low bidder legally was a greater risk than anything else. And so there's nothing to disqualify the bidder here. So at the end of the day, we're going to ask to proceed with this bid. Of interest, and I've had a couple of individual conversations with council members that had expertise in the building trades, specifically Councilmen McGee, Presnell, and Dickert. We had some discussion about shingle roof versus metal roof. And so if you look at the bid tabulations, the original bids came in as the base bid, and then the shingle roof came in at a $60,000 decrement, i.e. cheaper than the base bid. Both the low bidders, the lowest bidder and the next lowest bidder, structured their bids in that way. Understand that that those were, at least for the lowest bidder, that was a mistake as far as how they calculated it. All the other bidders on the high end of the spectrum looked at that as an additional cost to go to a shingle roof. And so in order to keep things clean, and based on the advice that we got from our council members that are in the trades, our recommendation is to hold fast with just the standard low bid with the metal roof, which should ultimately have a lower O&M cost structure, throughout the years, and doesn't really take away from any of the aesthetics of the station itself. Understand also that this final design that was bid was done so with a lot of community input, and that included some additional costs for the barrier plan of the plants and whatnot around the station, and also the water plan, the water area behind the station, which would normally be open, but in this particular case is actually going to be encased and be underground. So those added to some of the cost factors. So I think, the city has mitigated where it can. It's taken a lot of the community members' concerns into account with the final design. I think where we're at right now is that we have our final design costs or our construction costs with the base bid of $3.361 million. What you see asked for is the reallocation, which includes $3.8 million, which is the base bid plus our contract cost to JLA, to CSRA testing for material testing, to Mark Costner and Capstone for project support, the FF&E, and then our contingency. So ultimately, that is the bid that we're going to proceed with, or we're asking your permission to proceed with. And upon your receipt of permission, we will enter into the final contract with Clifton Construction. So that's a lot of output from me. I'm going to go ahead and pause for questions from Mayor and Council on this specific project.
Jim, I guess my question maybe isn't necessarily for you, but I see Mark's on with us and Chief Thomas. I guess my big thing is, when you pick someone to do your project, you have to be able to work with them. I know we've had previous experience with one of the bidders, but they weren't the low bidder. They did our first station. So I guess really Mark and Chief, since y'all are going to be heading this up, are y'all comfortable with this company? Or, I know we're going to we're supposed to take the low bidder, but I just wanted to get y'all's feelings on that.
Mr. Presnell, I can tell you, obviously we don't have any experience with them. I'm talking about public safety because Clifton is the low bidder, and the second lowest bidder obviously was the one that built Station 3. I don't see any issues, any challenges with Clifton. I think they'll do a good job. We've looked at some of the work they've done before, and all the documents point to their reputable construction company. So I wouldn't have any reservations there.
Thank you, Chief.
And Mr. Presnell, I would say the same. I mean, I think in our bid situation, I think, and several council members know the folks over at Clifton. I think that this type of project, the Fire Station 1, are they going to have to be carefully managed, and we keep close eyes on it? Of course, we'll do that on all the projects, but I believe Clifton's got the ability to handle the project. But we'll obviously keep a close eye on the whole process, all the subs and that kind of thing. But I feel comfortable. We've talked to Rob and Steve Clifton and the project manager several times, gone through all their qualifications. And so I feel like they can handle the project for us.
All right, thanks. Yeah, I mean, to me, that's really the biggest thing with the line of work. David Fletcher, y'all know as well too. You get a bad contractor, subcontractor, it can make the project miserable. But if y'all feel good with it, then I'm good with it too.
Now, one question, I guess Fletcher, David, and Eric, and Chief Thomas, and I talked to Jim about this today, all the trouble we had with the metal roof on Substation 2. And I mean, it wasn't like the first few years, it was 15 years or more. Is that going to be a problem? I don't want to see us getting the same roofing problem. And Bob, I know you remember, even though you wasn't on council, you were there with all the meetings about that with the metal roof.
Pat, I'll chime in. I'll say that I think our issues with that metal roof is it has what we call an internal gutter system. And internal gutters are difficult to keep from leaking. I think that's the issue we had there. I mean, a metal roof, if installed correctly, and I think we have a metal roof on Station 3. So if it's done correctly, they're fine.
The point of observation, the activities center does have a metal roof, and to my knowledge, we never had an issue with it.
The talk that I had with Jim, just to kind of let you know, was, shingled roof is going to 20 to 30 year life expectancy. So, a re-roof on a building of that size is probably $20,000 to $30,000. The maintenance cost would be just, every 20, 30 years, rather than put money back in it. Metal roof, how many houses you see out in the countryside still got metal roofs? They'll last 100 years as long as they don't rust through, as long as they're still painted and stuff. So that was kind of I was looking at it from a down the line standpoint, that it'll save money, down the line, in that you won't have to re-roof it with shingles.
Well, also you might, Chief Thomas, David Griffin is a good one to refer to, who was Bennett's Fire Station 2, about that roofing. So you might want to ask him. And Fletcher, I know what you were saying too. So, and I trust your opinion. But just like I said, I know that it's been a headache. I don't know if it just finally we've give up on it, or if it was ever fixed. But David Griffin can really give you an update on that.
I have looked at the documents, Miss Pat, and we go back and describe that thing like Fletcher talked about. It was an internal drainage system within that roof, and that was the biggest challenges, and some of the documents I've seen have pretty much pointed to that. So with the advances like Fletcher's talking about and the metal roof lasting a lot longer. I feel comfortable with the metal roof that we're going with, and some of the bugs have been worked out of that.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
I would tell you also, as we were doing our market research and as I've kind of poked around and looked at different departments, I've found a mix. Obviously, shingles is a pretty popular item, and it's doing pretty well. That having been said, I can find a number of fire stations, in the region that are metal roofed, and so ultimately, is it something that's going to be a deal breaker? At least from my perspective, it's not. Again, I would defer to people in the trades, but I think if we're not doing anything kind of weird, if you will, with the internal gutter system and doing a standard gutter run on that, I'm not personally concerned about metal versus shingle. Over.
I'll chime in too. I compete against SD Clifton all the time. I think they'll do us a fine job on this project. Tom Zeeser just chimed in via the chat and said that SD Clifton built our MRF facility, and he said we haven't had any issues, and the city had a great experience with SD Clifton building the MRF years ago. So I guess the city does have a little bit of experience working with SD Clifton. So I don't see any issues with SD Clifton doing this job. Also, something I wanted to point out, and I didn't realize this until David and I got into some conversations with Mark about the project. Mark shared a list. It's 20-something-ish modifications that were accommodated at the request of citizens. So I think this is a great example of where the city listened, took into account the many things that the neighbors around this area had to say, and those items were incorporated. Some of the items at no cost or relatively no cost, but then some had some decent cost to them. But the city worked with the citizens, so I think this is an instance that we can point to for many years of an example of how we worked with the citizens to accommodate their requests. So I think we're going to end up with a great product here and something that the neighbors and the whole city can really be proud of, and public safety will be able to use for many years. So I'm excited to get this project started.
The only thing I've got to say is to echo what Fletcher just said. I mean, it's, I know that this whole project started out quite rocky, but it's certainly, the public input has been good and welcome. And I was kind of surprised when I saw that number of alterations made as well. I think that's something that city should be proud of, we should be proud of. And at this point, I have no personal issue. I've got no issues with Clifton. I've seen their work. I've studied them a little bit since seeing they were the low bid. I've got a little familiarity with them. I'm comfortable with them. I think it's just ready. Let's get this thing going. I'm ready to see progress.
I was just going to agree with the fact about the metal roof. I think it's a great option. I really don't see a downside to it. Ms. Pat, those flat or inverted gutter systems are always a challenge. But we've got a pitched roof on this building, so I don't see us having an issue with that for a very, very, very long time.
Now, I forgot to mention this. Something else is that, Jim, there's actually several houses in the streets right around this neighborhood that have metal roofs. So I think from an aesthetic standpoint, and as Eric Presnell mentioned, many old homes have metal roofs, and there's a couple really old homes right there in that neighborhood that have metal roofs. So I think it's going to blend in just fine and look great.
Thank you, Councilman. Appreciate the rigorous debate. Do we have any other comments or concerns that we want to talk about on item number 11? Okay, hearing none, we would go through kind of our routine business with administrative reports and recognition of visitors, and then adjournment. So I think this takes us pretty cleanly through item 1, which is the city council agenda for tonight. So again, some of the highlights are we're going to be requesting the first reading of an annexation. We're going to ask you to approve the proposed personnel manual and to basically get rid of the old one and adopt the new one. We're going to ask you to reprioritize CPST 3 funds specifically for the purpose of the fire station. And then we're going to ask you to approve the resolution allowing for the low bid with Clifton Construction for the base bid for us to allow to move forward on that project. So those are the kind of the big ticket items for the city council meeting for tonight. And with that, I'm going to close out item 1 unless there's any alibi or questions about that. And if not, I'm going to move to item number 2 under finance. But I'll take a quick break here and see again if there's anything else that I'm missing here for the city council meeting this evening. Hearing none, I'll move to the second item, which is under finance. The City of North Augusta Municipal Code, Section 6, TAC 3, surety bond required of licensed contractors. This is again, a study session item. Cammie Hayes had approached me and asked to get this added for a study session. She wanted to give you an update. And this falls in line with the state of South Carolina's move to standardize kind of the business fee model legally by January 2022. This is a good opportunity for us to look internally to our systems. And Cammie has kind of come to the conclusion that that we could be a little more streamlined in our ability to deal with our businesses here. And so I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to Cammie to talk a little about the surety bond. Again, this is a study session. You will not see this on the council meeting for tonight. I want to give you some time to absorb this, but I suspect we're going to end up putting this onto an agenda for a city council meeting starting in January. So Cammie, I'll turn it over to you for any comments on this in the study session.
Okay, good evening. Section 6-3, the title of it is surety bond required of licensed contractors. And this requirement was for $1,000 surety bond by contractors, and it was linked directly to their business license requirement. What we found through the standardization of business licenses is this is something that's outside of our business license ordinance, but is directly linked to the business license ordinance or those contractors getting licensed by the city. What we found is this is a non-standard requirement. So if we're moving towards standardization across the state, businesses will have the ability to make payments via the portal. We would be having a non-standard requirement that they couldn't take care of on that portal. Therefore, going against the standardization, making things easier for businesses. We did do our due diligence. We've surveyed cities, spoke with the staff, spoke with Tom and Mark Timmerman in building standards, got consensus from everyone to remove this requirement. Honestly found it to be an administrative burden. We've only utilized this requirement or acted on the surety bond twice in about 20 years is what they could recall, and didn't actually end up having to act upon it, but used it more as a tool to get compliance. We have other means to get compliance from our contractors related to business licensing and permitting that we can use. So removing this requirement will not remove that ability. There's also state requirements for contractors, and this does not remove those requirements. Those requirements remain, they're state requirements. We will continue to look at those before we issue business licenses as well as permits as we've done. Did also find this was a source of complaints for our contractors that are coming in to be licensed. They're unfamiliar with the requirement if they come here to do business with it being non-standard. So felt like by removing the administrative burden as well as the non-standard requirement that it could be a win for both contractors coming into the city to do business as well as relieving the administrative burden of staff. And that's why we're bringing this forth for your consideration. Wanted to have your input. If there's consensus to move forward, we can bring it forth at the next meeting. It will need to be an ordinance and have 2 readings to remove this section. Kelly Ziers also reviewed it and concurred with its removal.
Again,
The whole point of this, what we're trying to do is make this easier to do business in the city of North Augusta I'll defer to our a lot of our council members who have great experience here working in town. But the goal is to kind of just streamline process and make it easier for people to come in here. Not to totally ditch all the regulations, but to really just take a hard look at which ones we really need to keep, which ones are really not serving the city in any kind of useful way, and adversely affect our trades contractors. So with that, I'll turn it over to the council for comment.
Cammie, correct me if I misheard you, but basically this takes, you said the surety bond out of the business license. Did I hear that right, or am I hearing something wrong there?
That's correct. So removal of this code section would remove the surety bond requirement for contractors to receive a business license to do business in the city.
I mean, most of the places I've gone, and I've gone to several places, when you go, I mean, you got to issue a bond for a job you're doing. I don't know how I feel about that one. I mean, because that surety bond just ensures, I mean, I don't think a lot of people understand what that's for, that if you leave a job incomplete, it could be filed against it to complete a job. I don't know if I necessarily like that. I mean, most companies are licensed and insured. I think the surety bond is a good thing, because what we don't want is opening the floodgates of contractors that come in and don't complete jobs. I mean, because a surety bond, depending on the job, I mean, they're anywhere from $50 to $200. It's not a great deal. Most of the places I go, especially if I'm a first-time contractor going into a place I don't work, it's usually required. Now and again, this is something y'all can look at on another level. If you have contractors coming in that have business license year after year after year after year after year, I could see that. But just to allow a one-time contractor to come in and not hold that, I don't know how I feel about that.
I was going to ask the question. I understand what the bond, what it does, but do we also require any proof of insurance for the license? And I would be more comfortable if there was a process of them doing a proof of insurance, general liability and workman's comp and so forth, and not having the bond issue, because then that would cover a lot of areas. But the goal, I think the city is that we need to make sure that we're protecting the consumers as much as possible with people that do business in the city. So, the bond is one thing there. I understand it's probably really cumbersome, and we want to allow people to do business in North Augusta as easy as possible. But I don't know what the consumer would have if there's any challenges that could help them.
And to add to that point, David, you're not incorrect. And with my business, a lot of it is word of mouth and recommendations. I'm constantly having to bid against, and and I'm not saying these people are legit or not, but there's so many people on Facebook that you see people saying, "Can somebody do something for Augusta?" Not saying that I'll do a bad job, but I've heard horror stories of the guy that shows up in his pickup truck. He doesn't have an office. He says he's licensed. You got to be careful with the license because Aiken County for a while, they just now adopted it. But to be an electrician in Aiken County up to, I think it's about 10 years ago, they changed it. All you had to do was send $50 to the state to get a specialty contractor's card. I think we need to protect our consumers, like David said, whether it's a surety bond, or I like that idea too. Say, hey, in order to get a business license, you must, show that you have workman's comp, general liability. I don't think that's really asking too much personally, but I agree with David on that. If we do away with the bond, if they've got insurance, I would think they're a reputable company.
Public comments. Is there anything else from our council members on this topic?
Well, Jim, it looks like Tom wants to say something. Tom?
I could,
Tom, if you got something, can you put it in?
if I could just mention, the surety bond in this case is for the protection of the city. It's payable to the city, not a. Can you not hear me?
Heard that, but Tom was saying the surety bond goes to the city, not to the consumer.
I'm going to ask just out of, so what is the purpose of it then? Because I didn't understand that. So I've got to give this some thought. I'm having to think through this. So what is the purpose of the surety bond if it's payable to the city?
So the requirements under the surety bond, and Kelly may want to elaborate some on this, is for damage to properties while they are doing their work due to negligence of them performing work that is something that would be payable to the city. So this doesn't remove requirements by citizens to want bonded and insured companies to perform service at their homes or their place of business. You know, that's something that they would ask for on their own when they are procuring work for their residents. Just like the city has certain requirements when we procure work for bids, we have insurance requirements, we have licensing requirements that we look at before we are going to award contracts. You know, our citizens who want to do that should be doing that themselves. So this surety bond is something that is a requirement of the city, payable to the city. That is a non-standard requirement in the state of South Carolina among municipalities that we're trying to remove.
And I think based on that, I generally favor going in that direction. It's just something I've got to give some more thought to.
I will say that many Georgia counties, like Richmond and Columbia County, we have to issue a bond every year. But I mean, $1,000 bond, to me, if the decision by the body was to keep the bond, then the dollar amount needs to go up. $1,000 isn't going to do much, not to mention that doesn't cost me much as a contractor to go buy $1,000 bond, probably $20. But so, you know, but I'm with Cammie. I think oftentimes the public, because I've encountered this recently with a citizen in North Augusta that had a complaint about something that was built on their house, and they feel like it was shoddy work. And you know, many times citizens always want to look to the city as being responsible. But I would say, because I'm a contractor, to me, it's the responsibility of the citizens to make sure they're hiring reputable folks. And I get that they're not contractors and they may not always know what to ask, but they need to seek out wisdom from folks and try to hire reputable people. I mean, the city does inspections, but inspectors in our city is no different than any other city is. They can't stay there all day, every day, watch every little thing that's done on a job and can guarantee. Their job isn't to guarantee to the citizens that everything is done perfectly on the project. That's not the role of the city inspection department. So I think oftentimes some citizens have that false feeling that the city is more or less certifying that everything's done correctly on a project. If they think that, they need to think again. Citizens need to make sure they're hiring the right people. And as Cammie said, make sure they're getting the insurances, and they can ask the contractor to post a bond for their job. I provide those for private entities all the time. So I don't have a problem removing this from here, especially since it's $1,000. I don't see the point. And I agree with Cammie. If I'm coming in as a contractor to build something, this is just another piece of paper I have to track down. It's slowing down the process, and it's causing more headache for something that's probably going to cost me $20 to get from my insurance company. So I don't have a problem with removing it.
You know, I will reiterate what Tom said. That contrary to I think what maybe Eric and David were looking for, that this really does not provide any real protection to the homeowner or to whoever the contract's being done with. Almost all the responsibility is just saying they would comply with city ordinances if they do damage to city property, streets, you know, if they cut into the street or do something of that nature. And in fact, it could work almost the opposite. I can see the contractor saying, "Oh, I'm bonded. I've got a bond with the city," and that's a misrepresentation. It's a true statement, but I think it could be misinterpreted by a property owner who is entering into a contract saying, "Oh, well, they're bonded," thinking it's a performance bond or something of that nature, when it's really not at all. And I don't do much of that law, but I do notice, I mean, this is for a licensed contractor, and I take it that license has to come from the state, that they've already met some requirements, and it's just for them then to come in and do business in the city, that we have required this. And like say, whenever this was originally done, $1,000 bond may have been something, but it's not much anymore. And I don't see that we are adding to or taking away protection to our citizens by our removal of this.
I agree. Maybe I didn't explain myself right. I know the bond is not to protect the consumer, but I was just saying that, having the bond or the proof of insurance just adds to the fact that they may be a more capable contractor because they have to have those requirements for the state license.
I think we need to look at more of their insurance and their workers' comp as opposed to worrying about the surety bond. Cammy, where does the $1,000 go? Is it used, or it's just in an account, or what?
So the city does not have this money. It's a policy that they take out with their insurance company. So there's no financial impact to remove or maintain this code section.
Okay, thank you. Then we need to delete it.
Council, I would recommend, if you would like to, unless you have any other questions for Cammie, or even if you do, I can always arrange to kind of talk with you offline. If you have specific questions for this item, I'll get a consensus from the council later to see if we can add this to our January 4th item for discussion. But with that, I'm tracking it's 6:56 p.m. And I would recommend that we adjourn this session and prepare for the city council meeting in 4 minutes hence. Subject to your concurrence between the mayor and the council.
Agree.
Agree.
Do we come out of this and go back in, or stay right now? Last meeting, didn't we stay and just went right on into our city council?
Yes, ma'am. We're going to stay right here in this session. I'm just saying, if you want to hide your camera and go make a comfort stop or something like that, then
okay.
Then I think.
Okay, thank you.
the City Council of North Augusta, this virtual meeting to order, please. In lieu of the invocation tonight, I will read the Christmas story from Luke chapter 2, verses 1 through 20. And it came to pass in those days that there went out a decree from Caesar Augustus that all the world should be taxed. And this taxing was first made when Cyrenius was governor of Syria. And all went to be taxed, every one into his own city. And Joseph also went up from Galilee, out of the city of Nazareth, into Judea, unto the city of David, which is called Bethlehem, because he was of the house and lineage of David, to be taxed with Mary his espoused wife, being great with child. And so it was that, while they were there, the days were accomplished that she should be delivered. And she brought forth her firstborn son, and wrapped him in swaddling clothes, and laid him in a manger, because there was no room for them in the inn. And there were in the same country shepherds abiding in the field, keeping watch over their flock by night. And lo, the angel of the Lord came upon them, and the glory of the Lord shone round about them, and they were sore afraid. And the angel said unto them, Fear not, for behold, I bring you good tidings of great joy, which shall be to all people. For unto you is born this day in the city of David a Savior, which is Christ the Lord. And this shall be a sign unto you. Ye shall find the babe wrapped in swaddling clothes, lying in a manger. And suddenly there was with the angel a multitude of the heavenly host, praising God and saying, Glory to God in the highest, and on earth peace, goodwill toward men. And it came to pass, as the angels were gone away from them into heaven, the shepherds said to one another, Let us now go even unto Bethlehem, and see this thing which is come to pass, which the Lord hath made known unto us. And they came with haste, and found Mary and Joseph and the babe lying in a manger. And when they had seen it, they made known abroad the saying which was told to them concerning this child. And all that they heard wondered at those things which were told to them by the shepherds. But Mary kept all these things and pondered them in her heart. And the shepherds returned, glorifying and praising God for all the things that they had heard and seen, as it was told unto them. Amen. So we stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. There's Miss Carpenter. Hello, Miss Carpenter. I can see you now. I got 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, it looks like all are present. Is that right, Sharon? They're all sitting in strange places tonight. I had to try and figure out where they were. Council, you've have been provided a study session and council meeting minutes from the meeting of December 7th, 2020. If there are no additions or corrections, they'll stand approved as provided. Okay, approved. Moving on to item number 5, employee of the quarter for October, November, and December, and it's George Blakely. And before I get started, let me add that the 2 employees being acknowledged tonight were recognized earlier this week at the employee recognition gathering, which we held in the council chambers. George Blakely is a code compliance officer with the Department of Finance and General Services. George began working with the city in July 2017 in property maintenance. A little over 1 year after that, George transferred to finance as the department's first codes compliance officer, dealing with business license compliance. George has done an excellent job from a vision for a new position to executing it professionally. A major benefit has been added revenue to the general fund. George has worked diligently to create best practices and procedures for the position through collaboration with other code compliance officials in the city and in the surrounding areas. George has worked hard, establishing relationships with our local businesses, the owners, and those firms conducting business in the city. He's been successful in licensing previously unlicensed businesses without having to resort to enforcement tactics. George's qualities for his role as codes compliance officer are being very detail-oriented and meticulous, perfectly suited for finance department. He is also willing to lend a hand where needed, and he's been taking on the duty of fogging the lobby using the fogging machine we have in this COVID time. He assists planning with code compliance matters and is also, fortunately, in an unfortunate situation, assisted with emergencies which occurred in the building, a municipal building, prior to first responders arriving. George exhibits the right skills, including positive outcomes when faced with difficult situations. Finance is glad to have George as a member of their team, and we're certainly glad to have him as a member of the city staff. And as our employee of the quarter for the fourth quarter of 2020, George was given a plaque and will receive a monetary prize of $50. Congratulations to George. It's been a big help. Okay, moving on to item number 6. The Employee of the Year for 2020 is Andy Hogg, Personnel Safety Officer with the Department of Public Safety, and congratulations to her. Andy also has an interesting career. She started with the City of North Augusta in May 2018 as a dispatcher, where she displayed skills as a communicator and decision maker. In 2019, she made the decision to become a public safety officer. She wanted to be hands-on and see things through from start to finish, rather than being just a calm voice on the phone. As a public safety officer, Andy is exemplary, producing quality cases, being dependable, and treating the public with dignity and respect. Being a female in a male-dominated profession, she certainly offers a different perspective to the public. But having just made that distinction, let me now say that without applying any qualifiers at all, she is very calm, cool, and collected, and a top-notch public safety officer. Andy has also distinguished herself as a firefighter by completing multiple and rigorous firefighting certifications. On her days off, she continues public service as a volunteer on the Long Branch Fire Department. Andy wants to continue helping people as a public safety officer, developing her skills through advanced training with the eventual goal of being assigned to the investigations division. Andy is a tremendous asset to the public safety department and certainly to the residents of North Augusta. I want to offer Andy our congratulations as the Employee of the Year for 2020, and she received a plaque also and a monetary award of $50. So congratulations to Andy. Two very wonderful people to receive these awards tonight. Okay, Council, you have also, in addition to the minutes, been provided a copy of the council meeting schedule for January 21st through December 21st. This is presented for information and approval unless there are objections or questions. Seeing none, so done. Moving on to item number 8, annexation. This is ordinance number 2020-36, to change the corporate limits of the city of North Augusta by accepting the petition requesting annexation by the city of North Augusta and annexing plus or minus 0.23 acres of parcel 005-10-05-016 fronting on Mayfield Drive and owned by the city of North Augusta. Do I have a motion to approve this ordinance on first reading?
So moved.
I heard Ms. Carpenter. Was that Mr. Brooks second?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Typical that we request citizen comments on any item on the agenda. I discussed it with Sharon earlier, and no citizen comments have been received on any item on the agenda tonight, so I'll dispense with asking for them and at all items. Are there any council comments on this annexation?
Mr. Mayor, I just want to point out, I think I did this a while back when we accepted the property, but I just thank city staff and thank North Augusta Ford. This was a collaboration where I think they acquired the property on behalf of the city and more or less donated it to the city so that we could expand the Greenway system as part of their FROG initiatives, Friends of the Greenway. So I just want to thank the city staff and North Augusta Ford for collaboration that is allowing us to expand our Greenway system.
Thank you. And yeah, this gets the Greenway connected to right away up there. So that's a big positive. Any other comments? Hearing none. Being virtual, I have to do a roll call on votes. Mr. Brooks?
Yes.
Ms. Carpenter?
Yes.
Mr. Dickert?
Yes.
Mr. McGee?
Yes.
Mr. Presnell?
Yes.
Mr. Toole?
Yes.
The mayor also votes yes. It's unanimous, 7-0. Thank you. Moving on to item number 9. It's a personnel issue, resolution number 2020-57 to approve the proposed city personnel policy manual. The chair moves to adopt this resolution. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
Mr. Presnell, I think I heard. Any council comments? Mr. Dickert?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, as I stated in study session, and as I stated in the prior study session, I have objections to us adding additional holidays that the city will be closed, especially holidays that the vast majority of private citizens that don't work in government sector jobs have to work, such that they would have difficulties doing city business. So I understand us trying to offer our citizens or city employees benefits, but that could be accomplished too by just giving additional PTO days to account for this so that they could use them at whenever they wanted to. So I don't think I'm going to get any support, but so I'm just going to vote this down tonight, and because I'm opposed to adding more holidays for when businesses need to do business with the city or private citizens wanting to use the rec center or other city amenities that may require staff. So I'll be voting this down simply because of that.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Mr. Mayor, if I can, I share a lot of what Councilman Dickert says. I'm on the fence with this one. I still do believe employees are our greatest asset. Anybody that's in business, I mean, I couldn't do near the things I do if it wasn't for my guys. I wish we could pay them more, but that's just not the business model that it works in. I think I will support this. I'm on the fence, but like I say, our employees have gone without raises for a significant time. And I mean, we're talking 2 days. I know Jim answered my questions about that. He's like, we're paying anyway. Obviously they're salaried and, not hourly. It is a tough decision, and I agree with a lot of what Councilman Dickert said, but at the end of the day, if we can do something for our employees, like Ms. Pat noted in a study session, hopefully they will understand that, we did this because we do appreciate the work that they do. And, I don't know how many of them tune into this, but I know I have many personal friends that work for the city, and, and I tell them all the time, thank you, all the officers, the parks and rec people, the streets and drains, the water department, our employees are great. And Fletcher, I do share a lot of your sentiment, but, a lot of these employees have gone without raises for a while, and I think this is just a small step to, ensure that they understand that we do appreciate everything that they do for us.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, call for the vote. Mr. Brooks?
Yes.
Ms. Carpenter?
Yes.
Mr. Dickert?
No.
Mr. McGee?
Yes.
Mr. Presnell?
Yes.
Mr. Toole?
Yes.
The chair votes yes. The resolution is adopted by a vote of 6-1, with Councilman Dickert being the dissenting vote. Moving on to item number 10. This is resolution number 2020-58, a resolution approving a reprioritized funding list for capital project sales tax 3. Do I have a motion to adopt this resolution?
So moved.
Mr. Presnell, do I have a second?
Second.
Ms. Carpenter? Jim, do you want to provide some background on this for people who may be watching? Thank you.
Yes, sir. So the original council guidance that I received several months ago is that Fire Station 1 was the priority within the CPST 3 band. And so we are moving forward on this project. And in order to do so, we have to reprioritize funds in the CPST 3 line for this fire station, along with potential money out of the Capital Projects Fund. So as the project goes to completion, any money that we have left over from that project can then be reprioritized by the council for other items that are within the CPST 3 band of projects. And we will have a better sense of, what kind of funding that we'll have available there as we get towards the tail end of the fire station project next year. But for now, what this does is it locks in our funding from our CPST line. It is not something that I could do as the city administrator. It requires a council vote for us to be able to make sure this money is reprioritized within the CPST 3 lines, strictly for Fire Station 1. And so that's what this resolution before you tonight essentially does, is again, it puts all of the remaining CPST 3 funding directly into the Fire Station number 1. Sir, does that answer your question adequately?
I think that's a good explanation. Thank you very much. Council, any comments? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote. Mr. Brooks?
Yes, let's go.
Ms. Carpenter?
Yes, by all means.
Mr. Dickert?
Yes.
Mr. McGee?
Yes.
Mr. Presnell?
Absolutely, yes.
Mr. Toole?
Yes.
The chair also votes yes. The resolution is adopted by a vote of 7-0, unanimous. Moving on to item number 11, resolution number 2020-59, a resolution authorizing the acceptance of the low bid of SD Clifton Construction Incorporated for the construction of North Augusta Department of Public Safety Station 1. The chair moves to adopt this resolution. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Dickert, I believe. Thank you. Mr. Glenford, Jim, you want to highlight this for citizens that may be watching?
Yes, sir. So for our citizens and for council, we conducted a number of pre-bid meetings with a number of general contractors and went out for bid, of which we received 5 bids from local general contractors. I thought we had a very good spread across very reputable firms here in the region, all with a track record, and all firms that we were familiar with, to include firms that have already done business with the city on a number of other projects. And so ultimately, Clifton Construction, ST Clifton Construction, came in with the low bid. And so what I'm requesting today from the council is the approval of a resolution that would allow us to enter into a contract with the low bidder, ST Clifton Construction, for the base bid of $3.361 million for allowing us to move forward on Fire Station 1 at its cited location on Martintown Road.
Thank you, sir. Any comments from citizens? Council? Fletcher?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, if I can, I just kind of want to reiterate some comments I made in study session that that I wanted to commend staff and the citizens through this process. It is taken a long time to get to this day, but as Mark Costner, our consultant, provided some of us, the city has accommodated roughly 20-ish comments and modifications made by citizens into the final design. And so this was a great instance of the city collaborating with the local residents, hearing what they had to say, listening, taking that into account. And so I think what we're going to end up with is a facility that is going to serve the city's needs well, but also met what the citizens wanted in that area. So I'm looking forward to getting this project underway.
I'll echo those comments. Thank you.
I was going to say, I'm excited to get the ground moving. Let's get this thing up.
I got my shovel ready. Let's get the groundbreaking scheduled. That's an order, Mr. Clifford.
Acknowledged, sir.
Any other comments? Ms. Carpenter? Oh.
Yes, sir.
Did you have?
No questions. No. I'm like everybody else. Let's get the shovels digging.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, hearing none, to call the vote, Mr. Brooks?
Yes.
Ms. Carpenter?
Yes.
Mr. Dickert?
Yes.
Mr. McGee?
Yes.
Mr. Presnell?
Yes.
Mr. Toole?
Yes.
The chair also votes yes. The resolution is adopted unanimously by a vote of 7-0. That concludes the action part of the agenda tonight. And the administrative reports, Jim?
So I just wanted to highlight kind of the good work, really of all of our employees, but specifically for last week of our utilities division inside public services and also public safety with the water line break that we experienced at Pisgah Road and 5 Notch Road. Cold weather conditions, a lot of folks having to dig into water while it's 40 degrees out. And I can tell you, being out there on the ground with the folks who are involved, great morale, great sense of purpose. And I'm proud to serve here with a number of the city employees that we have here. So my hat's off to a number of our employees in a very set of difficult circumstances to restore services to our citizens in a timely fashion. So that's all I have, other than to say I wish you and the council and all of our citizens a very Merry Christmas.
Okay. Rachel, do you have something you want to add?
I do. When we did the Employee of the Quarter and Employee of the Year awards, we did live stream that to Facebook and YouTube. So those videos are saved on those 2 social media sites. So if anyone wants to go back and watch those awards be delivered, as well as all of our years of service awards for our city employees, you can find that on our social media.
Thank you. Council, any comments? Closing comments?
I was going to say that unfortunately we weren't able to do our gathering for Christmas that we normally do. Hopefully next year we won't have that issue. Just want to say that I missed it because it's a fun thing to see and meet everybody and get together and talk and appreciate our employees the best we can. And I missed it. So hopefully next year will be different. And I'll see all y'all probably next year.
Okay. Fletcher, did you want to add something?
Yes, sir. I wanted to ask Jim regarding the employee bonuses that we authorized. Have those gone out? Has all that been effectively communicated to city employees? And the reason I ask is about a week ago, I had some that were asking me questions about it that were still confused. So I just want to make sure that that's been communicated and handled.
Councilman, I can tell you that the bonus payment was dispersed last Friday. As far as the communication strategy, I'm sure not everybody got the word, but I will work to follow up with our employees to make sure they understand kind of the structure that they're dealing with. And also, I wanted to also wait until we had our personnel manual approved, because then I can tell them specifically what the actions that the council took relative to bonus and also for time off. And I think those go well together.
Okay. Thank you for that. And Merry Christmas to all of you, and Merry Christmas to our staff.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yeah, I just
Merry
wanted to,
Christmas.
yeah, that's all I wanted to say too is Merry Christmas to everybody that's watching, to all of our employees, all of y'all. Hope everybody has a great Christmas and a good New Year's as well too. Look forward to seeing everybody next year.
Thank you.
Pat Carpenter would like to say Merry Christmas to everyone, staff and citizens, and may God just continue to bless North Augusta. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I guess I got to say Merry Christmas now too. Merry Christmas, everybody.
Thank you, Kevin.
You're the only one that...
Kevin, you could have been a Scrooge. You could have just said bah humbug.
Well, I could have been.
I wish we could have met in person. Some of y'all on Facebook might have got to see my new suit that I broke in Saturday for a Christmas party. It was Fletcher's laughing. I guess he saw it, but it was fantabulous.
I would say that there's very few on this council that would have a picture of themselves taken in that suit, is my opinion. That may be wrong.
They said black tie, so you know if I go big or go home, and I will tell you, I had more comments, and people love that suit. Let's put a little fun. I mean, thank goodness my wife just walked outside, but we can only use white lights. We can't use the blow ups and the pretty lights.
Okay, I appreciate that. Just one bit of unofficial information that some of you may be interested in, and without going into names or anything, I believe unofficially that there will be 2 Republican candidates for mayor, and 7 Republican candidates for council, and there will be 1 Democrat candidate for mayor, as well as 1 Democrat candidate for council. That's unofficial, and I have not been party to any of the official acknowledgments to the city or to the county, but it looks like it's going to be an interesting year ahead of us. I want to thank council, every one of you, and staff as well. This has been a year like none other in my lifetime, I think, and probably the same for all of you, since I'm the oldest one on this screen. But we've gotten through the year, working together, dealing with some tough issues, making big progress in a lot of areas. And I think you need to be proud of the effort and the work that you've done, and just look forward to a new year here. And I certainly wish you and yours the Merry Christmas that you wish you could have. God bless you. And this meeting's adjourned.